Hey contractors, my name's Leroy and I'm one of the co-founders of Level. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how you can implement Level in your business so that you can start job costing today, giving yourself a clear picture of your business's profits. This video was brought to you in partnership with Profit for Contractors, and if you have any questions or feedback about this video, feel free to reach out to us at support@checkthelevel.com. Now let's get started. Here's what we're going to cover in this video. First up, I'm going to talk about how job costing increases your business's success by up to 90%. After that, I'm going to talk about how to implement Level's job costing in your business so that you can start accurately tracking your project's profits. Did you know that there are two major reasons why 9 out of 10 contracting businesses fail? The first reason is that contractors typically don't charge enough for their work. And this is just a function of so few contractors accurately tracking job costs. Because if you tracked job costs accurately, you would know whether you're making a profit or a loss on a job. The second reason, which builds on top of this reason, is poor cash flow planning. You might have a profitable job, but if your payment schedule's not set up correctly on your job, you might be financing the costs for those jobs before the customer pays you, putting you in a very high risk cash flow situation. Something that is very important to take note of here is that to solve for both of these problems, you need to have a reliable job costing system in place. It is impossible to solve for these two problems unless you know whether you're making an actual profit or loss on your job. And that is tied back to your numbers. This is not a gut feel. This should be tied back to bank statements, receipts, and invoices. Something else that's really important about starting job costing as soon as possible is because the average time it takes to implement a new and reliable job costing system can be anywhere from 1 to 3 months. So if you haven't been doing job costing and your business is 5 employees or more, you would likely take up to 3 months just to implement a job costing system. It's not all grim news though. Thankfully, we've brought out an app built exclusively for contractors and their bookkeepers to help them with job costing. Here's how. Level is the easiest job costing solution on the market. I'm going to show you exactly how it works, but it's basically you take photos of all your receipts, your supply invoices, your customer invoices, and upload those to our platform on a per project basis. Next, what's great about this is if you're a Profit for Contractor member and you're using the PFC's Job Costing Sheet, I'm going to show you how Level seamlessly works with that job costing sheet so that you can accurately track your actuals versus your estimates. Since Level is collecting all the paperwork, those receipts, supplier invoices, as you'll see as we continue through this video, what this does is it halves the time you spend on your bookkeeping. And also what's great is Level is affordable. It starts at $39 a month per admin user, and if you want more information about our pricing, visit checkthelevel.com/pricing. With that, let's dive into the walkthrough. After signing up to Level and creating your company account, the first thing you'll be brought to is this screen. This gives you a summary of your user profile, your username, You're also able to see your company calendar, which details all your projects that you have on at that time. And you can break that between my projects. If you have to be at a job at a specific time and that job spans over multiple days, you'll be able to view your shifts. And there's also an ability to create and assign tasks in Level. That is a bit of an advanced feature. So for this video, we're just going to focus on job costing, and I'm not really going to touch on my tasks. This calendar is broken down between my projects managed by me. So there are instances where I might not be the administrator on the job, and it might come up on my projects, but not come up on managed by me. But if you are managing projects and you want to see who you've assigned to that project and what shifts have been assigned to that project, you can quickly see all of that over here. And if you want to see company-wide information, you can click this. Company-wide means these are active projects that you're not assigned on, but because you're a company administrator, you'll be able to see all those jobs in one place. Right, now the calendar is a great way to stay organized, schedule your team, see what's up and coming, and so forth. But the first thing you'll likely want to do when you log on to Level is invite your team to Level. And so you invite your team, you're going to navigate to this crew tab over here. And in here, I already have 2 team members in my company, James and Susan. Something to note is we give you your username, first name, last name, your email, as well as your phone number. And these badges represent whether you're a company owner or an admin, and you can make other users admins. But the important thing to note here is that administrators get to see all financial sensitive information on projects. They also get to see all company projects, whereas non-administrators will only see the jobs that they've been assigned to and have very limited access to financial data. In fact, the only financial data that they can see is their own. So their own receipts or bills that they upload to jobs or their own timesheets. To invite anyone to a Level company, what you do is you navigate to this button over here that says invite crew member. Click on that, and what you'll want to do is enter your crew member's email address. So in this case, I'm just going to say test@checkthelevel.com. I'm going to select the role crew, and I'm going to invite that crew member. As soon as you do that, you'll see the invitation sent out here. And when the member accepts that invitation and creates their profile, the information will be displayed here. Sometimes your crew might forget their username after they've created their account. For example, if they got logged out for whatever case and have to get back into the app. And if they forgot their username, you can let them know what their username is from this Manage Crew section, because their Level usernames are here. We use Level usernames to ensure more security on the app. Since there is some financial information in here, we want to make sure that it is secure. After they've created their Level account, what you can do is then mark them as administrators. So if you have a project manager that you want to have administration rights in your company, on your Level company profile, send them an invitation. After they've accepted their invitation, click on one of these buttons and it will give them administrator rights. You can see how many administrator seats you have by navigating to settings, and if you see your company profile over here, it will show you how many of those admin seats you've assigned. Cool, so let's go back to the projects section. So here you'll see all your active projects. These are the projects that are assigned to you. If you're an administrator in your company, you'll also have the ability to see all your company's projects. This is just a great way to keep your active projects separate from the company so that you're not overwhelmed with too many. And we always recommend that you create a general purchases project and add any crew member who has authorization to make purchases in your company. What a general purchases project is it's a place for you to upload receipts and supplier invoices for indirect project costs or overhead costs. These are costs that wouldn't typically be considered as part of cost of sales or are indirectly part of cost of sales, like insurance on your employees. The other items that you might want to add here that are considered overhead are like your telephone bills, rent, meals, subscriptions, and any other office expenses. Typically, a great way to know whether you should be adding a receipt or a supplier invoice to this project is to ask yourself, was this a direct cost in my estimate? Yes or no. If it was a no, then you add it to this project. And to add anything to a project level, you press this plus button. You can add receipt or bill, invoice or payment. There's pictures, and I'm going to show you how all of this comes together as we continue through this video. Right, so after you invited your crew members, the next thing you'll probably want to do is create a project on level. To create a project on level, you press this plus button and you'll get prompted to create a project from template or create a blank project. I don't have any project templates, but in Level, if you create a project, you can save it as a template. This just helps you systemize your workflow even more. So if you have a standard way of creating projects in Level, there's an option to click on the More button, and in here you can save that project as a template. But going back to the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to create a project from blank. First thing you'll see when you get to the screen is you'll have the ability to add a cover photo to your project. Here, if you use color codes for your project, you might want to add a yellow or a blue just to help you differentiate between your different project types. Otherwise, you could just leave it blank or take a photo of the property that you're working on and add a photo of it there. Let's give this project a title. I'm just going to call it example project. Sorry for the typo. What's great is Level is linked to Google Maps, so if you type in the address, it'll pull it up, and this is also especially helpful when people clock in and clock out of the job site, because it will help you know whether they're clocking in close to this job site or not. Because when a user clocks into a job site, we do take a geo stamp of where they've clocked in, and I'll show you how that all comes together in this walkthrough. You can give your project a description. This could just be the estimate status, or it could be the entire scope of work. If you want your guys to see what that is, you can include that in the description. Next, you'll want to add crew members to this job. As before, I told you there's differences between administrators and non-administrators. If you want to see the full information about the difference, you can just click on this more information section. The key difference here is administrators can edit the project details, all the content in the project. They can also edit user access and can access all project financial information. Whereas can add users, they can only add to project, and there's limitations on what they can add. They can only edit their own content and have very limited access to project financials. In fact, the only things they see, as I said before, are their own receipts and bills, as well as their own timesheets pertaining to a job. View only is pretty self-explanatory. Level does charge on admin seats, so I've only assigned one admin seat in my company, so I actually cannot add these users as administrators to the job. In this case, I'm just going to add them as can add only users. The next thing I want to do is set a budget for this job. Level gives you 3 budget inputs. You can input your quote, you can input the estimated project's cost excluding labor, as well as your estimated labor hours. Now, if you are a PFC member and you are using the job costing sheet, that is a great place to find the information you need to input into your budget. And I've created an example for us over here. So here's an example job. I've added my materials, I've put in my labor costs, my other costs, but I have added some additional information to the spreadsheet. If you look at these blue sections, these are the additional columns I've added to this estimate. The first one is the level hours. These are the hours I estimate my crew to spend on this job. So in this case, I've taken a sum of all these hours, which is 46, as you can see down there, 46, and I'm going to input 46 into my budget for this job. Next, I'm going to add what I expect to upload in terms of receipts and supply invoices to my job. And remember, it's excluding labor costs. So I'm only looking at material costs and other costs, and Level asks you to include those amounts inclusive of what the sales tax is based on your geography. In this example, I have not included sales tax as my part of my unit costs. So what I've done is I've added the sales tax to my material costs and my other costs to give me a total cost which includes sales tax of 8,475. So I'm just going to put that in here. And last but not least, here is my desired final estimate. I have to add my sales tax to that too, which gives me the quote that I sent out to my client, which is $17,029.45. I'm an accountant by trade, so I always like to put the number in exactly. Cool. The next thing is Level gives you some options with time tracking. You can toggle time tracking on and off in a job. In this case, I'm going to keep it on. You're also able to create a customizable check-in questionnaire that every time your guys clock in, they have to answer a set of questions, and you can make those required. Typical questions that we see other contractors put in here is, are you wearing your PPE? How many miles or kilometers did you travel to get to the job site? Other questions could be, what are you working on today? And you have some really cool different types of questions that you can ask. So there could be a single text question, could be a checkbox, or you could create a drop-down menu for your crew to select answers from. I'm not going to use this feature in this demo. The other option you have is allow editable clock-ins and clock-outs. If you hover over this question section, what this basically says is if you toggle this feature on, what happens is your crew members will have one opportunity to update their clock-ins and clock-outs on clock-outs. So it's supposed to simulate how paper timesheets work, which is at the end of the day, you submit your timesheet in a paper form, and that's the only time you get to submit it and change it. So your users can change their timesheets if you toggle that on through Level. This just helps you save time, dealing with people forgetting to clock in and clock out. And if you trust your crew, this is a great way to save that time, and especially when you're onboarding this for the first time. Another very powerful tool in Level is labels. Here you could use labels to track estimate statuses or the different types of jobs you have. Maybe this is new home construction, so I'll just give it new home and I'll say save. Once you hit save, you're brought to your project in Level, and you're brought to your project overview. And as you can see, it's showing 0 hours of 46. That's the budget that I input. If you look at the receipt or bill total, it's 0 of 8,475. These are all the budget amounts I've put in here. And every time I upload a receipt or bill to Level, these numbers will go up. To add anything to a job, you just press this plus button, and there's a couple of different things that you can add to a job. And I'm going to show you how this works on mobile, because you guys are out on the road a lot, or your team's out on the road, rarely at the office. They need to be able to submit this paperwork from anywhere. So I'm going to show you how these features come together on the mobile. But there are some other things that you can add to jobs. There's pictures, videos, text notes, tasks, sub-projects, PDFs, and shifts. Cool, and I'm going to touch on each of those as we continue through this walkthrough. Now, remember when I was talking about administrators, they get to see the financial information on a job. This is all the financials that are pertained to this job in the project overview, and only administrators get to see this project overview. Non-administrators will only see my overview, which shows their hours that they've worked on the job. If they've uploaded any receipts or bills, that would also display here, And I'm going to show you how that comes together as well on the mobile app, so you can see firsthand how those different views come together. With that being said, I'm going to move to the mobile app. Alright, so I'm going to open up the mobile app. And because I've logged in as Leroy Beebe already, it's going to take me straight to my calendar. As I mentioned before, the calendar is just a great way to stay organized, right? It helps me know what I have on it during that day, what's up and coming. And because with Level we can navigate between project calendar view and my shift view, I can also look at what projects I'm busy working on, what days, and what time I have to be there. To see my shifts, all I do is I press that blue button at the top that says your projects, and I change that to shifts. And now I get a breakdown of all the shifts I have been assigned for this month. If I want to look at the shifts that I've assigned to other crew members, I press that blue button again, and instead of saying mine, I can say managed by me or company-wide. In this case, I'm just going to look at the projects that I'm managing, not what other employees are managing, and I'm just going to hit apply. And what we'll do is now it's showing James and my shifts, right? Let's go back to our projects, because Level is centered around projects and job costing, so that's where all the really cool features lie. So I'm going to go back to that project that I created, the example project. And if I go in here, moving from top to bottom, you'll see there's the title, example project. There's also that street address that I gave in when I created the project. If I tap on that, it's going to navigate me to Google Maps. So it's just easy for me to get to the job site, right? I don't have to type the address out or anything like that. Just tapping it gives me the directions to get there. Let's go back to the application. If I clock into this job, it's going to ask me if I want to take a selfie. This is just a great way to prevent crew members from ghost clocking in. If you're worried about your crew members giving each other their cell phones to clock in on a job site, what you can do to prevent that is you can ask them to take a selfie on check-in to prove it's them that is checking into the job site. I'm just going to say no for this example. As soon as I clock in, I get a green ribbon at the top of the screen telling me I'm currently clocked in. And if I tap on that, it tells me which project I'm clocked in on. This is really important because as an administrator, you can be clocked into multiple jobs at once. We give you this functionality so that you can edit timesheets on the fly. As a non-admin, you can only be clocked in at one job at a time. So you can't duplicate your check-ins as a non-administrator, right? And if you recall on the web, I gave you that project overview. We give you that exact same overview on mobile. And this is so great, right? Like it's so convenient. You guys are on the job sites. You don't have your laptop on handy. So you can just look at your phone and get real-time insights in where you are in relation to your budget. How much have you spent on suppliers, as well as how many hours have your guys worked? This information is all here. And what's great is adding anything to a job on Level is so easy to do from your mobile device. You just press that big blue plus button, and in here, like you saw on web, you can add different types of content. So for this example, I'm just going to add a receipt or bill, and I'm going to assume that this receipt is $7,500, and the only mandatory thing we ask you to input here is the type. You don't have to put in the amount, but we always recommend you do. In this case, it's a receipt, so I'm just going to toggle on receipt, hit save. And what you'll notice is as soon as I uploaded that receipt, the progress bar jumped from 0 to 7,500 out of $8,475. That progress bar tells you how much of your budget you've spent. As soon as you go into 75% of your budget, we change the color of the progress bar from green to orange to warn you that, hey, you're coming close to your budget. Are you sure you should maybe have sent out a change order? Or, next time you do a job like this, stay on top of your expenses or update your estimates going forward. So this is just helping you manage project overruns, also helping you make sure you are staying profitable on this job. Same things happen with total received. So when it comes to total received, what we like our users to add is you can either add a invoice, a customer invoice, or a payment. When you press this question mark, what it asks you to do is, if you select payment, you should upload proof of payment from a client. And this can typically be an email. So like if you're receiving wire transfer emails or interact emails, you can screenshot the email and upload it as an image. You can take a photo of the sales receipt, or even just take a photo of the check, upload it here so that you've got proof of payment that you've been paid. And your bookkeeper can use this to allocate it to the correct invoice in your accounting software, right? So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a screenshot of an interact transfer that was sent to me. I'm going to say this is a payment, and I'm just going to assume that this payment was for $15,000, and I'm going to hit save. And boom. As soon as I do that, again, the project overview is updated, and I can see how much money I have received in relation to my quote, right? So there's no money left on the table. And if you notice something, I uploaded my receipt or bill prior to receiving money, right? So at some point I would have seen that, hey, I spent $7,500, but I haven't received any money yet. And that's a big red flag for cash flow. You should never be financing the jobs. You should always have more money in your bank than you've spent on the job, because if you're not, you could be looking at your financial statements and they could be telling you you're profitable, but your bank balance is negative, and you're like, what the hell? Like, why am I losing money when my profit and loss statement is saying I'm positive? And that's because you are not having good payment terms with your clients. So this is one way to check for that. So always check in the back of your mind when you're reviewing your projects. Have I spent more money than I've actually received? And if that's the case, you should start thinking about changing the way you set up your payment schedules on your jobs. So I'm just going to clock out of this job. Something I want to show you is, remember, I toggled on that functionality to be able to edit my timesheets on clockout. So I'm going to assume that I clocked out at 9 a.m. this morning and wrapped up at 5 p.m. You also have the opportunity to add a note on your clock out. If you want your guys just to give a summary of what they worked on that day, you can have that set up. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to hit clock out. And boom, as you can see, the hours worked went from 0 to 8. There's a little bit of a green progress bar that went up. Now this is the project overview. As I said, this is financial sensitive information. You don't want everyone on your job to know how much you've spent on it. So, again, only administrators get that view, whereas non-administrators get this my overview, which is the hours I've worked and the receipts and bills that I've uploaded, right? As you can see, I worked 8 hours on this job. It doesn't tell me what the budget was. Because I'm an administrator, I can toggle between project overview and my overview. So if I tap that show project overview, it will show the project overview. If I tap show my view, it will show my overview. Some other neat features in Level is if you tap on menu and you go to my timesheets, this is where your crew members can come and see all their timesheets across all their jobs in one place. And this just helps get buy-in from your team, right? You want your team to be able to reconcile the hours worked to paychecks, and you can inform them that the technology helps them to do that. And this is just a great place for them to see that data, right? So like if I wanted to see how many hours I worked in March, or like the first 2 weeks of March, I would just change the dates, hit confirm, and you'll see that the hours changed, and I worked a total of 62 hours during that time across all the projects. Let's just go back to the projects, and I want to show you what a live project could look like. What is all the information that could be uploaded? So I'm just going to go into Susan's home. As soon as I go into Susan's home, as you can see, I've got an overview of all the hours my team has worked in relation to my budget. I can also see that I went over budget by approximately $17,000 in terms of materials, supplier costs, other supplier costs like subcontractors. So I can go dive into this project and go, what the hell? Like, why did I lose $17,000 on this job? Maybe my subcontractor overcharged me, or maybe lumber was more expensive than I thought it would be, or maybe steel was more expensive than I thought it would be. And I could quickly update my estimates going forward based on this information, right? The pointer level is it's supposed to give you a bird's eye view of all the projects that you're working on in relation to the budget. And if you see a massive variance somewhere in one of your jobs, that's an indicator that you should go dive into that job and see what went wrong in it, right? You've got to be efficient about your time. You can't analyze every single job. You need to know the job. You need a way to filter out the good from the bad, and level really helps you with that process by giving you a bird's eye view of all the projects that you've worked on and the job costs associated with that, right? Other things you can add to a level project are tasks. As I mentioned, we're not going to touch on tasks in this demonstration, but this is a really good feature to stay on top of things, especially if you start assigning yourself a task. So like if I assign myself a task, for example, let's just give this a test task and it was due for today. What I want to show you is if I try to clock out of this job while this task was on, I will actually get prompted that I have an incomplete task. And this is just a great way to stay on top of things during the day. Like, oh, maybe I need to remember to lock the front door when I leave the house. So I'm going to assign a task to myself to lock the door when I clock out in case I forget. Just really helps maintain a good level of service quality across all your different jobs, right? And you don't have to be at every single one to do that. Other things you can add are notes, and these notes can be hyperlinked to other things. So if you're using Airtable or Google Suite or any other hyperlinkable service like Dropbox, you can actually hyperlink that information through a text note so your team can have access to other files or folders or whatever the case may be based on your workflow. There's also galleries. So this feels a lot like Facebook or Instagram. You can upload photos and your team can give a little summary of what was completed that day. You can add comments and have a conversation about that content. Again, this is just a great way to keep all your photos organized so that you could use them either for social media or insurance purposes, right? You don't want all your photos kept on your team's personal devices, because if they lose their phones, you won't be able to get those photos. You can also upload PDFs to Level. Here's just a change order. And there's a very cool feature on Level, sub-projects. This is probably my favorite feature in the app. It is an advanced feature, but how it works is much like how you organize folders on your computer. You might have a parent folder and you might have subfolders within that. The same principle applies in Level. You could have a parent folder, which is your parent project, and you can break that down into sub-projects or subfolders. And those subfolders are just sub-projects within the parent project. So you could even set up like a sub-project for a change order, and all the information, so like the project overview, the budget, all that could be kept in that sub-project and tracked separately from the whole project so that you could get more detailed on your budgeting and job costing. You might also want to break it down into different tasks, right? So framing or demolition. The key thing here that's important to remember is just because you have access to the parent folder, that doesn't give you immediate access to the subfolder. You actually have to be added to the sub-project to get access to it as a non-administrator. And that just helps you control who can do what in the job. Like maybe you don't want your crew to see your estimating process, and you create an estimate subfolder where you'll upload your photos and you can collaborate with other administrators in the company to create the estimate, but you might not want non-admins to have access to it. The other use case is even maybe adding a homeowner, right? You could add a homeowner as a sub-project, and you could communicate to them directly through that sub-project. We've seen some contractors do that before. Cool. And that's really about it in this mobile app. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip to James Birdolph to show you what it looks like as a non-admin. And something really important to remember here is, and I want you to remember what the administrator view from a calendar perspective looks like. So you have all these options. You also, from a projects perspective, you have my active, company, and archive projects. And lastly, let's navigate to Susan's home. You'll see there's all that financial data. So I'm going to log out of my account as Leroy Bibi and log in as James Birdolph to show you what it looks like for a non-admin. So just hang on. So I've logged in as James Birdolph, and as you can see, James is on all the projects that I was, but when I go to your projects, James can only change his calendar view between his projects view, shifts view, and tasks view. He doesn't have that second layer to view all company projects or any managed projects. He only gets to see his own projects, shifts, and tasks. Again, he's only limited to the projects that he's been assigned to. When we navigate to projects, he can only see projects and archive projects. The projects that he was on and that have been archived, not the company archived projects. What's great here, again, this just makes sure that the guy on site, James, only needs to know about the jobs that he's working on, right? It just helps him stay organized. And when James goes into Susan's home, because he's a non-administrator, he only gets to see my overview. He does not get to toggle to the project overview to see the project budget information. He cannot change the project settings. There is literally very limited things that James can see from a financial perspective. If he goes to the receipts or bills, he can only see his receipts that he's uploaded. If he goes to clock ins and clock outs, he can only see his own clock ins and clock outs that he's put on this job. But he is able to see all the photos uploaded to the job. He can see the notes. He can see the documents. And if you ever need to get a timeline of everything, you just hit view all content, and this will show you a timeline of tasks. It will show you shifts. It will also show you your uploads. So if you're a new user to this project, all you have to do is click view content, and all the data will be shown on a chronological order. So the latest stuff will always be at the top. So the next question is, you're uploading all these receipts and bills to Level or submitting timesheets. How does that data across all your projects come together? If I have to run payroll, what do I have to do to get the timesheets in one place? Because going from project to project to get that data would be too time consuming. So I'm going to go back to the web app and show you the admin tool, which gives you so much power in terms of seeing all the data that you're collecting across all your jobs. So let's dive back to the web app. All right, and we're back. As you'll see, we uploaded quite a few things to the example project, and when I go onto this example project on web, those updates are reflected here, which shows that the web app is synced with the mobile app. So whatever you upload in the mobile app will come up in our web app. Now the question is, we have all these clock ins and clock outs as well as receipts and bills uploaded to Level. How can I see all of those across all my projects in one place? And to do so, you want to come to this Administrator tab. Only project admins can access this, and in here we have 4 administrative tools. We're continually updating this section, so when you watch this video, there might be additional ones at that point in time. The first administrative tool we're going to look at is the time tracking tool. And what the time tracking tool does, it shows all your timesheets across all your employees in one place. And you can filter this data quite easily by selecting the drop down menu. Here I can look at James's time. I can look at all of James's time. When I click view stats, it'll give me a sum of all his hours as well as his average hours. This is really helpful for running payroll. So if I wanted to run payroll, what I would do is click set pay period. And let's just assume that the payroll period is for the first week of March. I am going to go to March. I'm just going to run a payroll period for this time. As you can see, as soon as I do that, the data is filtered. I can click view stats to see how many hours I worked during that week. What you'll also note is there's this time discrepancy. If I click on this, it's going to show me when I created this clock in and what clock in did I set it as. So whenever I change my timesheet manually, there will be an orange flag to show, hey, this timesheet was created at a different time than it was set at. So on Friday, March 5th, I set my clock in time at 9 a.m., but I created that at 9:31 a.m. So if your employees are forgetting to clock in a lot, you can actually pick that up by seeing this time discrepancy. What's also great is if I clear these filters, you'll also notice that there's a geostamp of where I've clocked in, right? So if I click on this, let's just assume that my job site was on Given Street. I can quickly see where this person clocked in, and I now know they didn't clock in on the way to the 7-Eleven or anything like that, right? They clocked in where they were supposed to clock in, which was at the job site. There's other filter features that you can do here. If I wanted to only look at Susan's home, I could click view stats and it would show me all the hours for Susan's home only. You could also have answers to check-in questions. These are the selfie photos. Duration shows you the hours worked on each of these timesheets, and you can edit any of those time entries by clicking the edit time entry button. The other administrative tools that are really neat in Level is the Receipts Bills administrative tool. Here we provide you with all the receipts and bills for all your jobs, and you can navigate through them quite quickly, right? You can see who uploaded it for what project. It's the same one, and here you can see another Home Depot receipt. I've used the same receipt multiple times in different jobs as demonstration data. What's also cool is you can download selected. So if you wanted to download all of these images, you would select them, hit download selected. It would export it to a zip file, and you could upload that to your accounting software like QuickBooks Online or Xero to just have those receipts read quickly. There is one caveat there though. If you aren't using QuickBooks Plus, that's a great feature to use. But if you're using QuickBooks Plus, you want that project profitability reporting in QuickBooks. So the best way to manage that is to keep the data in Level, because now you know which projects those bank transactions and bills belong to, and you can book those costs quite easily in QuickBooks. If you want some more information about that, feel free to send us an email at support@checkthelevel.com, and we're happy to show you how to use Level with QuickBooks Plus to give you that project profitability reporting. The other really cool project administrator tool is this projects tool. If you go in here, what this does is it gives you a bird's eye view of all your projects, and you can change them alphabetically. You can filter them based on their start and end date. You could also see they have those labels. So if you want to use Level as a CRM, you could start using it as that through labels, right? Here you can say it's approved, and that means there should be 3 crew members on this job. And we also give you real-time data on where you are in relation to your budget for these jobs, and you can export this to CSV and start doing some really cool analysis with this information. All right, and that's it, right? We've covered quite a lot today. We've ran through a number of administrative tools. I've shown you how Level helps you from a job costing perspective. Remember, we're taking that data from the estimates, inputting it into our budget, uploading our receipts, submitting our timesheets, tracking that data in relation to the budget in real time so that we can always stay on top of project overruns and make sure that we're running a profitable business so that we don't fall in those 9 out of 10 contractors that fail, right? We want to be in that top 10% or improve our probability by up to 90% of being a successful business. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you have any questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to us at support@checkthelevel.com. And I really enjoyed spending this time with you. All the best. Cheers, Leroy.